when 51 became active, and that it was a very small group that tried to analyze this stuff. They didn't know where it was from. They didn't know how we obtained it. He said this thing was alive, and he got onto this UFO story from Whitley Strieber. And so he was assigned, find out what the deal is.
For decades, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base has been at the center of America's deepest mysteries, a place where whispers of alien technology, secret hangars, and vanishing evidence refuse to die. While Area 51 grabs the headlines, insiders have long pointed to Ohio as the true vault of secrets. Buried within its sprawling facilities, rumors tell of crashed UFOs, bodies not of this world, and files so classified that even presidents were denied access. Some call it conspiracy, others call it national security. But now, newly declassified reports and long-silenced testimonies paint a chilling picture. One that suggests the truth has been hiding, not in the Nevada desert, but here, in the heartland of America. What really lies inside the infamous Hangar 18? And why has Wright-Pat been tied to some of the most disturbing cover-ups in U.S. history? The answers may change everything you thought you knew. The legacy of Wright-Pat. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, known simply as Wright-Pat, isn't just another military installation. Located near Dayton, Ohio, it stands as one of the oldest and most significant bases in American aviation history. From its earliest days, it was tied to the pioneers of flight. The Wright brothers tested their earliest innovations not far from the soil it now occupies. Over the decades, Wright-Pat became synonymous with progress, hosting cutting-edge research on aeronautics, propulsion, and military technology. It was the birthplace of experimental jets, futuristic weaponry, and advancements that propelled the U.S. into the jet age. But as much as Wright-Pat is celebrated for innovation, its legacy has a shadowed side. For decades, insiders, whistleblowers, and even government officials have pointed to one section of the base, a tightly guarded area said to contain evidence of encounters not of this earth. Within its labyrinth of hangars, underground chambers, and research labs, stories claim that crashed UFOs were quietly stored, dismantled, and studied. The most infamous of these stories circles back to a single location: Hangar 18. The rumors didn't arise out of thin air. As early as the 1940s, reports of strange materials and unidentified craft were whispered among servicemen and contractors. Some claimed that during World War II, exotic technology was brought to Wright-Pat for analysis, setting the stage for decades of speculation. By the height of the Cold War, the base wasn't just seen as a hub for American aerospace research. It was seen as the ultimate vault of secrets, where mysteries too dangerous for public eyes were locked away. Over the years, Wright-Pat has become a legend in its own right. To the outside world, it is a place of laboratories, training grounds, and archives of American aviation history. But to those who dare look closer, it is something far more unsettling: the beating heart of UFO lore in the United States, rivaling even Area 51 in mystery. Its walls, its hangars, and its restricted zones are said to hold truths capable of rewriting humanity's place in the universe. The Roswell connection. If Wright-Pat is the vault, then Roswell is the key. In July of 1947, a rancher in New Mexico stumbled upon strange debris scattered across his land. Metallic fragments, unusually light, yet impossibly strong. The military swiftly moved in, first announcing they had recovered a flying disc, only to retract the statement the very next day, claiming it was nothing more than a weather balloon. that abrupt reversal lit a firestorm that has burned for more than 7 decades. But what many don't realize is what allegedly happened after the recovery. Witnesses, including military personnel and local civilians, reported that crates of debris, and possibly even alien bodies, were quietly shipped not to Area 51, but to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. From the deserts of New Mexico, the mystery was transported to the heartland of Ohio, where the secrets could be buried deep within government labs, far from public eyes. Over time, the rumors solidified into a chilling narrative. Some former servicemen swore they saw trucks and aircraft moving under cover of night, ferrying unusual cargo into restricted hangars at Wright-Pat. Others spoke of sealed containers marked with extraordinary security clearances, offloaded directly into the now infamous Hangar 18. Researchers who pressed for answers found themselves stonewalled, with official records conveniently missing or heavily classified. The Roswell incident became the cornerstone of UFO lore, but its alleged connection to Wright-Pat elevated the base into myth. Why here? Because Wright-Pat was the hub of Air Materiel Command, responsible for analyzing all foreign technology, from enemy aircraft to captured weapons. If alien craft existed, this was the place they would be studied. The logic was undeniable, and the whispers grew louder. By the 1950s, the story was unstoppable. Roswell wasn't just about a crash in the desert anymore. It was about what was hidden after the crash. And in every telling, the trail of secrecy led straight to Ohio. For believers, this wasn't coincidence. It was proof that the greatest mystery of all time had been locked away at Wright-Pat, shielded from the world behind concrete walls and armed guards. The mysterious Hangar 18. Among the countless buildings that make up Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, one has drawn more attention than any other. Hangar 18. For decades, its very name has been synonymous with secrecy. To outsiders, it looks like just another warehouse, one among dozens scattered across the sprawling base. But to those who whisper about what lies inside, Hangar 18 is something entirely different. The alleged resting place of alien technology, and perhaps alien beings themselves. The origins of the Hangar 18 legend trace back to Roswell. Eyewitnesses claim the strange metallic debris and even recovered bodies from the crash were delivered here under military escort. Once inside, the artifacts supposedly vanished into sealed laboratories, never to be seen again by the public. Former personnel have hinted at special projects housed within its walls, with clearance levels so high that even ranking officers were denied entry. Entire corridors, some said, were locked off from the rest of the base, accessible only to a handful of scientists and intelligence officials. Over the years, these whispers grew louder. A popular belief emerged that Hangar 18 was the American equivalent of a cosmic vault, a place where extraterrestrial craft were dismantled, reverse-engineered, and tested in secrecy. Reports surfaced of small humanoid figures seen under sheets, of containers filled with technology no human hand could have built, and of guards sworn to silence under threats of imprisonment. While skeptics dismiss this as folklore, believers argue that the consistency of these claims across decades is too strong to ignore. The rumors became so widespread that they even entered pop culture. In 1980, a film titled Hangar 18 dramatized the idea of alien craft being hidden at Wright-Pat, cementing the legend in the public imagination. While Hollywood fictionalized the details, The movie's core premise echoed what countless insiders had suggested: that Wright Pat, and specifically Hangar 18, held secrets the government could never admit to. What makes Hangar 18 even more mysterious is its shifting visibility. At times, it appears on maps and base diagrams. At other times, references to it vanish entirely. Official records are inconsistent, fueling the idea that something unusual is being deliberately obscured. Whether it's misdirection, coincidence, or calculated secrecy, the result is the same. Hangar 18 has become one of the most infamous locations in American history, a symbol of the unknown lurking within our own backyard. To this day, the question remains unanswered. Is Hangar 18 simply another military facility? Or is it the final resting place of proof that we are not alone? For believers, the answer is already written in whispers and shadows, and the truth lies locked behind those sealed doors. Project Blue Book exposed. If Hangar 18 was the vault, then Project Blue Book was the keyhole through which the public got its first real glimpse. From 1952 to 1969, the U.S. Air Force ran an official program to investigate reports of unidentified flying objects. And where was its headquarters? None other than Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Here, in offices tucked away behind guarded gates, thousands of UFO sightings were cataloged, analyzed, and quietly filed away. On the surface, Project Blue Book was a scientific endeavor. Its stated mission was to determine whether UFOs posed a threat to national security and whether the phenomena could be explained through known science. By the time the project shut down in 1969, it had logged more than 12,000 reports. The Air Force concluded that most sightings were misidentifications of stars, weather balloons, or aircraft. But hidden within the stacks of files was a troubling statistic. Hundreds of cases remained unexplained, even after rigorous investigation. This is where suspicion deepened. If Project Blue Book was only about weather balloons and misidentified stars, why did it need to operate out of Wright-Pat, a base already shrouded in rumors of extraterrestrial technology? Former investigators admitted that the project was more about public relations than science, designed to calm public fears while quietly moving anything significant into classified channels. Critics argued that Blue Book wasn't the end of UFO research. It was a smokescreen to conceal the real work happening behind closed doors. Testimonies from former personnel add fuel to this fire. Captain Edward Ruppelt, the first director of Blue Book, later hinted that certain reports were taken away from his team and handled at higher security levels. Others involved in the program suggested that physical evidence, when recovered, didn't remain in the Blue Book files at all, but instead disappeared into the vaults of Wright-Pat. What the public saw was the diluted version. The real answers were buried far deeper. When Blue Book was officially shut down, the Air Force declared the case closed. UFOs posed no threat, and no evidence of extraterrestrial vehicles existed. But skeptics quickly noted what wasn't said. Why, then, were so many reports still unexplained? Why were large portions of the project's files redacted? And why had so many former officials, from Air Force officers to civilian scientists, hinted that the full truth never made it into the public record? For many, Project Blue Book was not the government's investigation of UFOs. It was the government's performance. And like a magician's sleight of hand, while the public was distracted by one file, the real secrets were locked away somewhere else. And once again, all trails seem to lead back to Wright-Patt. Whistleblowers and hidden testimonies. Behind every legend are the voices that refuse to be silenced. For Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, those voices came from whistleblowers, insiders who claim to have seen more than they were ever meant to. Their stories, scattered across decades, form a patchwork of testimony that paints Wright-Patt not as just another base, but as the epicenter of something extraordinary. One of the earliest and most famous accounts came from Senator Barry Goldwater, a decorated Air Force general and presidential candidate. In the 1960s, Goldwater admitted that he had once requested access to a secret storage area at Wright-Patt, rumored to contain the remains of a UFO. He said he was firmly denied, by none other than General Curtis LeMay, one of the most powerful men in the military at the time. Goldwater later told reporters it was the only time LeMay had ever raised his voice to him, warning him never to ask again. To believers, this was proof that something extraordinary was being hidden, even from the highest-ranking officials. Other testimonies trickled out over the years. Former military personnel spoke of crates arriving at the base under heavy guard, their contents unknown but treated with extreme secrecy. Contractors hinted at projects where exotic metals and unusual machinery were tested, materials they couldn't explain with any known science. A handful even claimed to have glimpsed preserved bodies, small, humanoid figures that were whisked away as quickly as they appeared. Though skeptics argue these are exaggerated stories or false memories, the consistency across decades is hard to dismiss. In later years, civilian researchers who pressed too close to the truth often reported being intimidated. Files went missing. Witnesses suddenly retracted their statements. Some spoke of unmarked cars following them, or anonymous warnings to drop their investigations. While critics wave this away as paranoia, others see it as a telltale sign that powerful forces were at work, determined to keep Wright-Patt's secrets buried. Perhaps the most unsettling testimonies came from those who never sought attention at all. Quiet engineers and Air Force staff, long retired, whispered their stories only to family members or trusted friends. To them, Wright-Patt wasn't just another posting. It was where they saw things that defied everything they knew about science, technology, and humanity itself. Individually, these stories might be dismissed. Together, they weave a chilling picture. Wright-Patt isn't just a base, it's a vault. And those who dared to peek inside often carried the weight of that knowledge for the rest of their lives. Biological evidence claims. For many, the idea of flying saucers locked away in a hangar is already enough to stir the imagination. But what made Wright-Patterson's reputation truly chilling were the claims that the base held more than just machines. Whispers suggested that alongside crashed craft, biological evidence, bodies not of this earth, had been secretly transported, studied, and preserved within its walls. The connection traces back once again to Roswell. Witnesses there didn't just report strange wreckage. Some swore they saw small humanoid beings removed from the crash site. According to long-standing accounts, the remains were shipped directly to Wright-Patt for analysis. Inside the now infamous Hangar 18, they were said to be examined by top scientists working under strict secrecy, their findings buried under layers of classification. The stories never fully went away. Decades later, military insiders continued to hint at non-human biologics being hidden at Wright-Patt. Some claimed to have seen containers under refrigeration, others spoke of labs sealed off from all but the highest clearances. Even if they had never personally glimpsed the beings, the whispers spread. Alien bodies had been recovered, and Wright Pat was where they were kept. Fueling this narrative were official documents, or rather, their omissions. Entire sections of reports were redacted under the guise of national security, particularly when referencing biological materials. To skeptics, this was mundane, perhaps biodefense experiments or chemical tests. But to believers, the blacked-out lines were confirmation that the government was hiding something beyond human. The rumors gained new weight in 2023 when former intelligence officer David Grush testified before Congress. He alleged that the U.S. had recovered not only exotic craft, but also non-human biologics. Though he never named Wright Pat specifically, many pointed to its long-standing reputation as the logical place such materials would have been taken. His testimony reopened a door that had never fully closed. Whether coincidence, paranoia, or truth, the idea that Wright Pat holds alien remains refuses to fade. For some, it represents the single greatest secret in human history, proof that we are not alone. For others, it is the ultimate cover-up, where the line between science and conspiracy has been deliberately blurred. And yet, despite decades of denial, the whispers persist. That within the sealed labs of Wright Pat, the answers to humanity's greatest question may already exist. The Cold War cover-up machine. To understand why Wright Pat became a fortress of secrecy, we have to step back into the paranoia of the Cold War. The late 1940s and 1950s were years when survival hinged on technological superiority. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a race where the slightest advantage in missiles, aircraft, or intelligence could tip the balance of power. Every innovation was guarded like treasure, and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base stood at the very heart of this race. It wasn't just a research hub. Wright-Pat was the headquarters of air technical intelligence. Whenever enemy technology was captured, whether it was a downed MiG jet or a piece of Soviet hardware, it came here for analysis. Scientists and engineers would dissect it, catalog it, and figure out how to turn foreign advantage into American strength. It was the perfect cover for something stranger. If the U.S. ever recovered technology not of this earth, where else would it go but to the very facility designed to study foreign craft? But secrecy breeds suspicion. With Wright Pat already cloaked in classified projects, it became easy to hide more extraordinary things within its walls. Unexplained debris, bizarre materials, even rumors of alien remains could be passed off as part of routine intelligence work. Few would question it. After all, the Cold War demanded silence. Some researchers argue that this climate of secrecy was deliberate, that by keeping the world fixated on the Soviet threat, the government could quietly bury anything stranger under the same umbrella. The classified nature of Wright Pat's operations made it impossible to separate fact from fiction. Was it really a new Soviet fighter jet under study? Or was it something that had never flown from any earthly runway? This climate of paranoia also meant that even those inside the system were kept in the dark. Compartmentalization, the practice of dividing projects so no one person had the full picture, ensured that engineers might work on a single piece of exotic technology without ever knowing its origin. To the outside world, this looked like standard Cold War secrecy, but to believers, It was the perfect way to conceal a far larger truth. In the end, Wright-Patt thrived in this atmosphere. The Cold War gave it cover, purpose, and endless resources. And beneath that shield of secrecy, rumors of extraterrestrial technology didn't just survive, they flourished. The very paranoia that kept America safe from its earthly rivals may have also kept humanity blind to something far more profound. Technology beyond its time. One of the strongest reasons Wright-Patt has remained at the center of UFO lore is the suspicion that what emerged from its labs wasn't entirely human. Again and again, witnesses and researchers have pointed to a startling pattern. Technologies that seem to leap decades ahead of their time, arriving almost too quickly, too perfectly, as if borrowed rather than invented. Take the advances in aviation and propulsion that unfolded in the years after Roswell. Jet engines improved at breakneck speed. Materials like titanium and carbon composites became staples of aerospace design. Radar, stealth technology, and night vision systems appeared seemingly out of nowhere. While official history credits human ingenuity, some believe these breakthroughs were born from something else. Back-engineered fragments quietly studied at Wright-Patt. The rumors are consistent. Pieces of craft with no rivets, no seams, no wiring. Materials that bent without breaking, or returned to their shape after being crumpled. Witnesses described metals lighter than aluminum, but stronger than steel. Fibers that seemed impervious to heat, and alloys that defied conventional analysis. For many, these accounts matched the stories of Roswell debris that allegedly disappeared into Hangar 18. Critics argue that there's no evidence, that such claims are nothing more than myths. Yet, the timing is curious. Just as reports of UFO crashes entered public lore, the United States leapt forward technologically in ways that often baffled even its own engineers. Could coincidence alone explain it? Whistleblowers have hinted at even more radical ideas: propulsion systems that bent gravity itself, or energy sources far beyond nuclear power. Though never proven, the echoes of Bob Lazar's claims about Element 115 resonate strongly. The concept of manipulating space-time to achieve propulsion was once dismissed as science fiction. Yet today, serious physicists explore the mathematics of warp drives and gravitational waves. Was Wright-Patt experimenting with these ideas decades before science was ready to admit they were possible? Whether these leaps were the result of human brilliance or something more extraordinary, Wright-Patt remains at the heart of the suspicion. Every stealth bomber, every experimental jet, every black project unveiled to the public raises the same question. Is this the product of human progress alone, or the faint reflection of technology never meant for our world? Disappearing files and redactions. If technology and testimony weren't enough to fuel suspicion, the paper trail, or rather, the lack of it, made the mystery of Wright-Patt even darker. Again and again, researchers digging into the base's history have run into the same wall. Missing files, heavily censored documents, and official records that seem to vanish just when the story gets interesting. The Freedom of Information Act was supposed to shine light on classified projects, but in the case of Wright-Patt, it often raised more questions than answers. Entire sections of Project Blue Book files were released with thick black bars covering crucial details. In some cases, entire pages were withheld, replaced with notes that the information was too sensitive to be shared with the public. What was so dangerous in those lines? Reports of enemy aircraft don't require secrecy after 70 years. But if the subject were something not of this earth, the silence suddenly makes sense. Researchers have also pointed to another troubling pattern: the vanishing act of certain reports altogether. Some early Blue Book cases were referenced in memos, only for the original files to disappear. Witnesses claimed to have filed reports at Wright-Patt that never surfaced again. Others noted that documents once available in government archives suddenly went missing, as if someone had quietly erased the paper trail. Perhaps the most unsettling were accounts from archivists themselves. A handful admitted that special collections at Wright-Patt were kept under extraordinary lock and key, far removed from ordinary military records. These weren't files anyone could stumble upon. They required clearances so high that even senior officers were often denied. What could possibly demand such protection? To skeptics, redactions are simply standard practice. The military has always blacked out sensitive details to protect national security. But to believers, the scale and consistency of Wright-Patt's missing files are no accident. They point to a systematic effort to bury the truth, not just for decades, but potentially forever. In the end, it's not always what you find in the documents that matters most. Sometimes, it's what's missing. And in the case of Wright-Patt, those missing words and vanishing files may be the loudest evidence of all. The new era of UAP disclosure. For decades, Wright-Patt lived in the shadows of secrecy, its legends whispered about but never confirmed. Yet in recent years, a remarkable shift has taken place. What was once dismissed as science fiction has now entered the halls of Congress, the Pentagon, and mainstream media under a new name: UAPS, or Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. In 2017, a series of leaked Navy videos stunned the world. Grainy but undeniable, they showed objects defying conventional physics, moving without wings, without exhaust, and at speeds that baffled trained pilots. The U.S. government, for the first time in history, admitted the footage was real. Suddenly, UFOs weren't just the stuff of tabloids and conspiracy theorists. They were a matter of national security. This new transparency sparked hearings in Congress, where military officials testified under oath about encounters they couldn't explain. And in 2023, former intelligence officer David Grush dropped a bombshell. He testified that the U.S. had recovered non-human craft and non-human biologics, language that shook even seasoned lawmakers. While he never named Wright-Patt outright, many in the UFO research community saw the connection immediately. If these claims were true, Wright-Patt's reputation as the ultimate vault of secrets had never been more relevant. Meanwhile, declassified documents continued to trickle out, many still riddled with redactions. The black bars spoke volumes, reminding the public that even in this so-called era of transparency, much remains hidden. For believers, it felt like vindication. After decades of denial, the government was finally admitting there was more to the story. For skeptics, it was proof only that unidentified objects exist, not that they are alien. Yet both sides agreed on one thing: the mystery was far from solved. What makes the present moment so compelling is the overlap. Whistleblower testimonies from the 1950s and 1960s, stories of Wright-Patt's secret hangars, biological specimens, and reverse-engineered craft now echo in the words of modern intelligence officials. The past and present seem to mirror each other, as if the truth has been hiding in plain sight all along. Wright Pat, once just a Cold War base, now looms larger than ever in the UAP debate. Whether it's myth, misdirection, or the key to humanity's greatest discovery, one thing is clear. The era of easy dismissal is over. The shadows are lifting, but the secrets, if they exist, may still be locked away in the heart of Ohio. What the future may hold. As the world enters a new era of disclosure, the legend of Wright Pat hangs heavier than ever. For 75 years, the base has been wrapped in mystery. From Roswell debris and whispered alien bodies to secret hangars and vanished files. Yet the growing drumbeat of official hearings, leaked documents, and bold testimonies suggests that the silence surrounding these secrets may not last forever. The question is no longer whether unidentified craft exist. The government has already admitted they do. The real question is what they are, and whether Wright Pat has known the answer all along. If the rumors are true, then somewhere behind those fences lies evidence that would forever change humanity's place in the universe. Proof that we are not alone. Proof that we are not the only intelligence to have visited Earth. But what happens if that proof is revealed? For some, it would be the ultimate vindication, confirming what generations of whistleblowers, researchers, and believers have argued for decades. For others, it could be a destabilizing shock, a truth too overwhelming for governments to easily explain. Religion, science, politics, all would be forced to reckon with a reality far stranger than anything imagined. Wright Pat, in the end, remains a paradox. To the public, it is an airbase, a hub of research and history. To those who look closer, it is the vault of the extraordinary, a place where the greatest secrets of the modern era may still be hidden in plain sight. The truth could emerge tomorrow, or it could remain buried for another 75 years. One thing is certain: the whispers aren't fading. If anything, they are growing louder. Each new disclosure, each new testimony points back to Ohio, back to Hangar 18, back to the base that has outlived presidents, wars, and generations of secrecy. And so the question lingers, chilling in its simplicity. Will humanity ever be allowed to know what Wright Pat has guarded for so long? Or will the vault remain sealed, a silent monument to a truth too great to share? The Vault of Secrets. The story of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is not just about runways, laboratories, or even Cold War secrecy. It is about what may lie beneath it all. The unanswered questions that have lingered for nearly a century. Did crates from Roswell really find their way here? Were bodies stored in Hangar 18? Did engineers secretly probe technology thousands of years ahead of its time? No official ever admits it. No document ever reveals it fully. And yet, the echoes never fade. Every redacted line, every missing file, every whistleblower's trembling testimony points back to this one place in Ohio, a base that has become more legend than military installation. Whether the truth is extraordinary or simply the product of secrecy gone unchecked, Wright Pat has carved its place into the heart of UFO lore. And until its vault is opened, it will remain the ultimate riddle. A fortress of silence holding answers that could change everything we know about humanity's place in the universe. The mystery of Wright Pat is not finished. If anything, it's only beginning.